My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. A very good evening to you. And today on Worldview, more woes seem to lie ahead for Russia as the EU is proposing a ban on all Russia's oil imports. We will inform you about the ongoing plans as outlined by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to actualize this ban. We will also bring you findings that have shed new light on Beijing's alleged use of hacking to buttress its powerhouse economy, as security researchers accuse Chinese government-linked hackers of trying to steal sensitive data from some 36 manufacturing and technology firms in the US, Europe, and Asia. Plus, since Roe versus Wade legalized abortion nationwide in 1973, many U.S. women have fought tirelessly to overturn it, believing the life of an unborn child begins at conception. Today on Worldview, we will also be looking at how U.S. women are divided on this leaked abortion ruling. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First on Worldview today, the European Union's executive has called on the 27-nation bloc to ban oil imports from Russia, among other measures, in a sixth package of sanctions targeting Moscow for its war in Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also proposed today that 3 major Russian banks be disconnected from the SWIFT international banking payment system and called for a ban on 3 state-owned broadcasters, reflecting widespread anger in the West at Russian President Vladimir Putin's campaign launched on February 24, which Moscow says is a special military operation to defeat dangerous nationalists. Von der Leyen said Moscow must face consequences. She called on the EU's member nations to phase out imports of crude oil within 6 months and refined products by the end of the year. In another gloomy Ukraine war story, Russian attacks in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region have killed at least 21 civilians and injured 27, the highest daily death toll in a month. This is according to regional governor Pavlo Krylenko. Writing on Telegram, Krylenko said at least 10 people were killed after the Russians shelled the Avdiivka coke plant, one of Europe's largest. He said 5 more people were killed in the town of Leman, 4 in the town of Volodar, and 1 each in the villages of Velika Novosilka and Shandrigolov. The death toll is the highest in the region since an attack last month on a railway station in the town of Kramatorsk, in which more than 50 people were killed. Meanwhile, the audio situation in Ukraine has finally drawn the attention of the Vatican, as Pope Francis said he offered to travel to Moscow to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in an effort to stop the war in Ukraine, but has yet to hear back. The Pontifex, in an interview, said he made the request for a meeting via the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, 20 days after Putin ordered troops to enter Ukraine on February 24. The popes for decades have sought to visit Moscow as part of the long-standing effort to heal relations with the Russian Orthodox Church, which split with Rome more than 1,000 years ago. But an invitation has never been forthcoming. Following suggestions over a visit to the Ukrainian capital, the Pope was clear, open quote, "I am not going to Kyiv now. I have to go to Moscow first. I have to meet Putin," close quote. During the interview, Francis also reported a conversation he had in March with the Russian Orthodox Church's patriarch Kirill, a staunch supporter of the invasion. In the meantime, dozens of evacuees who covered for weeks in the bunkers of a steel works in Russian-occupied Mariupol reached the safety of Kiev-controlled Zaporizhzhia on Tuesday, where hospitals were ready to treat people for anything from burns to malnutrition. Exhausted-looking people, including young children and pensioners laden with bags, clambered off buses that pulled into the car park of a shopping center in Zaporizhia, in southern Ukraine, not far from the front lines. According to Mariupol Mayor Vadim Boychenko, more than 200 civilians remain in the Azovstal steel plant, with a total of 100,000 civilians still in the city that has been devastated by weeks of Russian siege and shelling. From the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told Ukrainian members of parliament that the West was too slow to act over Russian aggression in Ukraine. Addressing the Ukrainian parliament via video link, he said Ukraine's allies cannot make the same mistake as they did over the 2014 Crimea invasion. He said the West had been too slow to grasp what was really happening and failed to collectively impose sanctions against Vladimir Putin. Details of £300 million of extra military aid were also announced by Johnson. The military aid to be sent to Ukraine in the coming weeks will include electronic warfare equipment, a counter-battery radar system, GPS jammers, and night vision devices. More on Ukraine matters. Media reports have emerged that potentially abusive men are using a UK scheme to host Ukrainian refugees to contact vulnerable women. The men, some with a reported history of violence, message the women on Facebook groups especially set up to connect sponsors and hosts. Some refugees have also become homeless after relations with hosts broke down or because housing was not well vetted. But a UK government official said safeguards were in place. These included Home Office security and background checks on all sponsors before visas are issued, and at least one council visit to a sponsor's property. A charity had labeled the Homes for Ukraine scheme dangerous and said she was shocked by the absence of safeguarding checks. From the U.S., a candidate endorsed by Donald Trump has won the Republican Senate nomination for Ohio in a sign of the former U.S. president's continued influence on his party. Author and venture capitalist J.D. Vance beat 6 other candidates in a race that set a record for the most money, $66 million, ever spent on an Ohio election. He trailed his more established political opponents for much of the primary campaign, but saw a late surge following Trump's endorsement. Vance is best known for authoring the 2016 book Hillbilly Elegy, which was later made into a feature film. The book was about his upbringing in a small Kentucky town and the plight of poor rural white Americans. It was heralded as a clear-eyed look at the political and cultural environment that helped explain Trump's appeal in rural and struggling industrial states. Still from the U.S., the Supreme Court's Chief Justice John Roberts has confirmed that a leaked document suggesting millions of U.S. women could lose the legal right to abortion is genuine, but that it does not represent the court's final decision. The leak has stirred expectations that the 1973 decision, which legalized abortion in the U.S., could be overturned, allowing individual states to ban it. President Joe Biden has argued that the decision, if it goes ahead, could call other freedoms into question. The leaked document labeled First Draft appears to reflect the majority opinion of the court, written by Justice Samuel Alito. It calls the 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling, which legalized abortion across the U.S., egregiously wrong from the start. Meanwhile, the shock waves from the leaked Supreme Court draft ruling are reverberating across the U.S. in both anti-abortion and pro-choice circles. Since Roe v. Wade legalized abortion nationwide in 1973, many women have fought tirelessly to overturn it, believing the life of an unborn child begins at conception. Others have clung to the hope that America's highest court might uphold the almost 50-year-old ruling that allows a woman the right to choose. 6 women in a collated interview three from each side debate on how they felt after reading the draft majority opinion that suggests the conservative-leaning court is poised to overturn the national right to an abortion. One of them said that as a pro-life conservative, she's used to watching the American political spectrum continuously shift further away from her values, so she was cautiously optimistic about the apparent progress. She said if Roe versus Wade is officially overturned, she will be pleased and grateful at the Supreme Court making a decision that upholds the law and protects the sanctity of life. However, others believe that as adults, women should be supported and their rights upheld, noting that abortion is health care and a personal decision about a woman's own body. Still on the leaked abortion document, President Joe Biden urged Congress to codify into federal law the right to abortion after an alleged draft majority opinion leaked and revealed the Supreme Court may be planning to overturn abortion rights in the U.S. Biden said in a statement released yesterday that if the court does overturn Roe, it will fall on the U.S. nation's election officials at all levels of government to protect a woman's right to choose. Biden promised that if Roe is overturned, his administration will be ready when any ruling is issued. But he also urged caution because the information about the court's potential ruling came from a leak. Still from the U.S., investigators say an escaped inmate and a guard suspected of helping him had a special relationship. The announcement from the Alabama Sheriff's Office said the discovery was confirmed by fellow inmates of missing prisoner Casey White, a murder suspect. A manhunt is underway for the 38-year-old escapee and 56-year-old corrections officer Vicky White. The pair vanished as she was transporting him to a bogus mental evaluation. Police have not revealed whether the relationship was romantic. Away from that, security researchers say Chinese government-linked hackers have tried to steal sensitive data from some 3 dozen manufacturing and technology firms in the US, Europe, and Asia, in findings that shed new light on Beijing's alleged use of hacking to buttress its powerhouse economy. According to Boston-based security firm Cyber Reason, the hackers targeted blueprints for producing materials with broad applications to the pharmaceutical and aerospace sectors. The firm discovered the activity last year, but said the hacking campaign dates to at least 2019, and it suggested that realms and data could have been stolen in the interim. The research is an unsettling reminder of the scope of the cyber threats facing U.S. businesses and government agencies as the Biden administration attempts to thwart them. For all of the attention on potential Russian hacking due to the war in Ukraine, China's digital operatives have been very active. In health, the World Health Organization (WHO) yesterday said that epidemic overweight and obesity rates are linked to over 1.2 million deaths annually across Europe, calling for swift policy changes to reverse the dangerous trend. In a new report, WHO said obesity rates in the region have ballooned by 138% in the past 5 decades and are linked to a series of cancers and cardiovascular diseases. The WHO said nearly a quarter of adults are now obese in Europe, higher than in any other region except the Americas. It further added that obesity causes at least 13 different types of cancer and is likely responsible for at least 200,000 new cases of cancer per year. Back in the U.S., a California-based company got closer to pulling off the feat of catching a falling rocket on Tuesday as it seeks to make them reusable for satellite launches. But after briefly catching a spent rocket, a helicopter crew was quickly forced to let it go again for safety reasons, and it fell into the Pacific Ocean where it was collected by a waiting boat. Rocket Lab regularly launches 18-meter that 59-foot rockets from the remote Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand to deliver satellites into space. The Electron rocket was launched on Tuesday morning and sent 34 satellites into orbit before the main booster section began falling to Earth. Its descent was slowed to about 10 meters, which is 33 feet per second, by a parachute. That's when the helicopter crew sprang into action, dangling a long line with a hook below the helicopter to snag the booster's parachute lines. The crew caught the rocket, but the load on the helicopter exceeded the parameters from tests and simulations, so they jettisoned it again. And now from the top half of North America, police in Canada have intercepted a drone which crossed the border from the United States carrying a shopping bag with nearly a dozen handguns, but only after the pilot crashed the device into a nearby tree. Officers in southern Ontario were called to a home near the town of Port Lambton, northeast of Detroit, after residents reported seeing a stranger maneuvering a commercial drone. But the drone operator lost control of the drone and sent it careening into a tree before fleeing in a waiting vehicle. Police recovered the drone with bucket truck, and that a plastic shopping bag was attached with metal carabiners and electrical tape. Inside, officers discovered 11 handguns, most of which were weapons prohibited in Canada. One of the images shared by police appears to show the serial numbers of a black handgun had been sanded off. The days after North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un vowed to bolster his nuclear arsenal at the fastest possible pace and threatened to use it against rivals, South Korean and Japanese officials are saying that North Korea may just have launched a ballistic missile toward its eastern waters today. This and more on Worldview right after the break. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. From the Koreas, Japan and South Korea have reported that North Korea fired a ballistic missile into the waters off its east coast today. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the missile was launched from Sunan, an area of the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. Meanwhile, Japanese Deputy Defense Minister Makoto Niki said the missile is estimated to have flown at a maximum altitude of about 800 kilometers over a distance of about 500 kilometers before falling into the sea outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone. The launch is North Korea's first since a military parade late on April 25, at which leader Kim Jong-un vowed to ramp up his development of nuclear arms. Among the weaponry on show at the parade in Pyongyang was a Hwasong-17 intercontinental ballistic missile, multiple giant rocket launchers, and a submarine-launched ballistic missile. From Costa Rica, President-elect Rodrigo Chavez has said that his government would not ratify the Escazú Agreement that establishes protection for environmentalists. The treaty was the first in the world to contain specific measures to protect the human rights of environmental defenders, and Costa Rica has been the driving force behind it. Outgoing President Carlos Alvarado had asked lawmakers to ratify the agreement, but Chavez said the treaty was unnecessary and could harm the economy. Panama has joined 62 countries, including Israel and Senegal, where press freedom is considered as problematic. The latest Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index also reportedly ranks neighboring Costa Rica as 8th in the world. In the report published on the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, the organization evaluates the practice of journalism in 180 countries. Reports say the examination has served to show the disastrous effects of information chaos, with the multiplicity of false information and propaganda spread on the internet. In the 20th edition of its World Index on Freedom of the Press, the Reporters Without Borders point to the development of opinion media that imitate the model of the US chain and to the trivialization of disinformation circuits. An extract from the report said the practices amplified by the functioning of social networks caused the growth of the fracture and the division of public opinion. UN Rapporteur for the Safety of Freedom of Expression has criticized Switzerland's banking secrecy legal guidelines that end in self-censorship by journalists. This comes as Switzerland drops 4 locations within the annual nation rating of freedom of the press by Reporters Without Borders. According to reports, the Swiss media did not take part within the Swiss secrets investigation out of concern of prison sanctions. Journalists publishing leaked information of financial institution shoppers might resist 5 years in jail underneath Swiss financial institution legislation. Away from that, the leader of Haiti's Fiat 400 Mawozo gang, which last year abducted a group of missionaries from the United States and Canada, has been extradited to the US. The Haitian National Police made this known in a statement. It could be recalled that the 400 Mawozo gang had made global headlines in October with the kidnapping of 17 missionaries who were held for 2 months and in recent weeks clashed with a rival gang in gun battles that had forced thousands to leave their homes. German Jolie, also known as Yon Yon, was extradited to the United States of America aboard a special plane FBI following a request for judicial assistance issued by the U.S. judicial authorities. Away from that, Ukrainian group Attila have teamed up with Ed Sheeran, releasing a new song, partly filmed and recorded while serving in the war against Russia. Attila are reportedly one of the biggest musical acts in Ukraine, but stopped working to join military. Proceeds from the song released recently will go to help the people of Ukraine. Lead singer Taras Topolia told newsmen that the English singer Ed Sheeran had conveyed his pain, compassion, and sympathy for the Ukrainian people. Topolia said the lyrics were created while he was serving as a medic on the front line in Borodyanka. Business and government users on Twitter may need to pay a slight fee to stay on the social media platform. Tesla boss Elon Musk announced this days after the board of Twitter agreed to a $44 billion takeover offer from him. However, Musk said the site will always be free for those he referred to as casual users. It could be recalled that he had previously said he wanted to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features. Away from that, escapologist Jonathan Goodwin has been left paralyzed after an accident. The 42-year-old's fiancée, Amanda Bainton, confirmed this. The Sherlock actress said Goodwin nearly died twice after last year's accident during rehearsals for America's Got Talent. She said the stunt ace, who appeared in the 2019 season of Britain's Got Talent, now uses a wheelchair. According to reports, Goodwin was supposed to escape a straitjacket while upside down 30 feet in the air in between 2 suspended cars, but became crushed between them as they caught on fire. Stand-up comedian Dave Chappelle was yesterday attacked by an audience member during a live performance at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles. Confirming the development, the police said a male suspect had jumped on the stage and onto Chappelle as he was about to exit. The force noted that the suspect, Isaiah Lee, was charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon. Fellow comedian Chris Rock, who was attacked on stage by Will Smith at the Oscars in March, joined Chappelle on stage shortly after the incident. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. I am Xavier Robert, reaching you from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Game. It is about delivering dividends of democracy. For this, accountability is key. So we listen, we follow up on the promise, and we track the progress. Watch Political Spectrum weekdays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Hi there everyone, welcome to the Etihad Stadium in Manchester.